Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing? Welcome to yet another amazing live stream. Let me know where you're watching me from. Hit the like button as you're coming in. Someone said that's my anthem. Yeah. Spirit of Umoja, that's my anthem. Hit that like button as you're coming in. Let me know where you are actually watching me from. I see a number of comments in the stream already. I'll be having some amazing guests who are already here with us. But before then, let me know where you're joining us from. Share out the stream so you can have many people participating. Let me also share out the stream. So, like 25 people in the stream already. Thank you so much for coming. Hit that like button. Let me also just share out the stream quickly. Let me know. Hi, Bosu Ghost, Tracks World. How are you doing? I've lost a lot living in America. Hi, Africa. Just curious to know why did she move back? She will be sharing with us today. Finally, someone telling the truth. I'm waiting. Blessed Andy, how are you doing? No, home is where I was kidnapped from. Waiting to hear why she left Kenya. I hope she wasn't scammed, conned by a Kenyan. Well, we'll get to know about which is Africa. Okay. Hi, Kwame. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining the live stream. Hit that like button as you're coming in. Just hit the like button as you're coming in. We're going live. Our guest will be joining us in the next 30 seconds. Share out the stream. We want to have many people participating, and let's hear about our guest, the lessons she learned from making the move and why she had to move back. And well, we'll get to know what she thinks and if she's finally going to come back again. So without wasting so much time, just make sure you hit that like button, okay? So let me get our guest on board. Hi, Shay.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Habari yako?
Ah, mazuri sana.
You can start by introducing yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Prashay Knight. I lived in Kenya from 2015 to 2018. I returned back from Kenya because it was almost as if my time had ran out. I needed to come back and handle business here in the US, finish my degree. I needed to work again legitimately and things like that to save money and build capital because my goal has to always do business in Kenya.
All right, all right. That's interesting. So where are you right now in the US?
I am in Baltimore, Maryland.
Mm-hmm. And where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Compton, California. And then we transitioned to Reno, Nevada. And then by the time I was an adult, I was in Florida, then on to Atlanta. I moved around all over the US. But I'm originally, yeah, from Compton, California. California girl.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe you can tell us a little bit when and how did you first make that move coming to Africa, and which countries did you first go to? Like, would love to know about like how and what inspired you to first move to Africa.
Well, it's a little complicated because it actually had started with a dream that I had had. It was a scary dream. It was a dream about I mean, and I hate to be this vulgar, but it was about some destruction coming in the US. And I saw tsunamis, earthquakes, just things like that. And it was kind of like, I don't know, I need to get out of here. It was something pulling in my spirit, like, you need to get out of here. I would consider myself asleep at that time because I was living a very non-spiritual lifestyle. Even though I was going to church and things like that, I still think that I was just not a very conscious person. So when I had that dream, it just kind of made sense. And then at that time I was also very sick. I was working 3 jobs and going to school, and I burnt myself out real quick, with just trying to maintain this American dream but just a regular person working, but I couldn't do it all. And I wore myself out. When I got sick, the doctors, they did nothing but put me on pills and medications. So I am a survivor of the opioid epidemic. And my mom was also like, you know what? We need to save your life. And I think we should consider another option, and consider going to Kenya.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when did you make the move and why did you decide Kenya?
Well, we did look at Ghana. We did, look at some of the other, countries around, but we felt like Kenya, our money could go the furthest. I mean, we looked at pricing of housing. We looked at how the economy was doing. We looked at, what is the youth culture like? And so Kenya just had that spark that really, drew us that way. And plus we have Kenyan friends, and my mother also has connections to Kenya as well. So it just kind of made sense to go home.
Okay, how was it when you first got to Kenya? How was the feeling? That was your first African country to visit?
Yes, ever in my life going to Africa.
So did you just decide now we are going to just have a one-way ticket and...
Well, you have to purchase a round trip for the most part. They want to see that you have a way home. It's kind of like a requirement to show that you can go home. But that ticket went to waste, the other half of the ticket. It just, because I knew I wasn't going back to the US. I had made up in my mind that I'm here, I'm staying, and I'm going to make it work no matter what happens. That was originally how it was when I first arrived. And within 3 months of arrival, I was healed from my sickness, and I had lost, over, I don't know how much it is in kilos, but in pounds, that's like maybe 20, 30 pounds within a couple of months, because I wasn't digesting the terrible food that we eat here sometimes.
Oh wow, that's quite interesting to hear. So that's the end of 3 months. You're like, nope, I'm not going to go back. This is it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm good. I'm going to make my way. I'm going to just start afresh. I'm okay with it. Let the, US go, let the Babylon go. And I just, I was happy to have transitioned.
So where in Nairobi did you move to? Oh, sorry, where in Kenya
So
did you finally decide that? Where in Kenya did you finally decide that now we're going to be staying here in Kenya?
So what I did before we came is I just started doing a lot of research on the real estate market and, the pricing. And I ended up contacting a firm that, he had set up appointments. So within a day of us arriving in Nairobi, we stayed somewhere near T-Mall, and we had a hotel room, Margaruby Suites. And we had a driver that our friend had connected us with, and he took us all over to look at apartments. And we found a place in Raqqa, past, the UN, past the biggest mall, in East Africa,
Yeah,
the rivers.
Rivers.
Yeah, so we lived in Raqqa. That was our first place that we settled down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
And
I got to know that and Duderu.
pardon?
I
I didn't hear the last part.
there's Raqqa, and then right next to it there's Dunderu, and so we live right there on the
Oh yeah.
border of.
Oh, okay. And
So
so
I would
what
take like
happened
public
next?
transportation, everything back and forth, all over, do whatever. We didn't have transportation, the driver all the time. So I used public transportation right off the back and started learning lessons very quick.
Okay, so and after staying in Raqqa, what happened next? Would love to hear your story.
Well, after Raqqa, my mother decided that she wanted to move from the building that we were staying in, and we ended up finding a place in Kikuyu town that was more expensive. It seemed to be okay at first, but we ended up having issues with the landlord. Unfortunately, he wasn't the most honest person. and there was some things going on in the building that we could not explain, but we just tried to protect ourselves. We heard about things and we just tried to do our best. And finally, we decided that we wanted to move. And it was like it became a situation where he like literally like tried to lock us into the complex. And we didn't owe
Mm-hmm.
him any money. My mom had paid him over $1,000 deposit. We never got that deposit back, by the way. And he was trying to stop us from leaving, the place over, I think it was an electric bill or something. And my mom's like, if you're going to keep that $1,000, you could take it out of the that money. Or so, it was some issues that it would just turned out to be a disaster at the place in Kikuyu. But I'm jumping ahead because in Kikuyu town, that's where I started my business, my cupcake business. So I'll get to
Mm-hmm.
that part later. But why we were in Kikuyu town, I would walk around all day. I knew the town well. The locals knew me well. So it was, I got to experience like little patches and communities as I went along.
Okay. So how was it? You started your business. You mentioned that it's at that point that you started your business. I would also love to know how did you how can I put it? Did you get to learn the language? How are you able to even start your business? And how did you like? What inspired you to start the business?
Well, I guess it was just me going into the supermarket and I wanted something sweet. I wanted some cupcakes and, some cookies. So I just started trying the local brand of these things. And it wasn't appealing to me. It just didn't taste very well. It was too sweet. And that was just my opinion, not that the brand was necessarily bad. I just thought I wanted a fresh cake. I wanted a cake that was really good. And I just couldn't find one in the store. So I tried my neighbors in the building. I baked some cupcakes and I asked them to try them. And they were like, wow, can you please make this for my tea time? Can you make more? You should be selling these. These are delicious. So for me, I'm not a baker, but I mean, I know how to bake. I've been baking since, I was a kid. So it was just simple baking. It wasn't anything fancy. So at some point, I just got brave enough to bake a whole bunch of them. And I went down to the police station and some of the other local county government offices. And I befriended all of the, people, in government in Kikuyu town. And they
Mm-hmm.
all would invite me back to bring more cupcakes to them at tea time every day. And they supported my business. And
What?
a lot of the other local businesses, people on their way to school, people going to work, they love these cupcakes. I started, speaking a little more Swahili at that point because I needed to communicate. But most people were like, no, speak in English. We like to hear you talk. We like the way you sound, your accent. They were shocked that an American was walking the streets with them, asking them would they like a free sample of my cupcake. And once I gave them the free sample, they were like, okay, well, how much is it? I'm like, oh, it's 30 shillings, which is equivalent to 30 cents in the United States, which is very low profit, practically none. But I mean, I was doing it because I was trying to get myself going. I wasn't necessarily doing it to make, a lot of money at first.
So was it profitable?
It was to keep a little extra coin in my pocket, but it wasn't necessarily something that I did extremely well at first. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
start doing much better at the business until I was featured in KTN on KTN News. There was a story that was done. A reporter by the name of Carolyn. She did my story, and she came to the house and she interviewed me, my mom about our,
Mm-hmm.
transition to Kenya. And once that story happened, once the story happened, that's when I started getting, more and more people like looking for me or trying to get their hands on these cakes. I started doing birthday cakes. small events, small church events. So once I got into that realm, that's when a little more money came into play, but still not enough because I'm used to dealing with dollars. And you sell a cupcake here in the US, chances are you're going to pay between $3 to $5 per cupcake. So 30 cents is not much, but I was thankful that people were loving what I had to produce.
Okay. I think I saw the story. Let me see if I can just play it briefly.
Now, when that story, oh, go ahead.
Quite hilarious. Now, a young woman who hawks cakes in Nyeri town has puzzled many. What catches the attention of the residents of Nyeri town is her thick American accent. Karen Derry has the story of Prishe Makita Night.
The hustle and bustle of Nyeri town. It is mid-morning and the residents are up and about in nation building, or if you may, county building activities. There is nothing particularly visible to suggest that Shishe Night is not a local, and she carries her basket in tow, hoping to charm Nyerians into buying her cakes.
Welcome, Kenny.
She invites us to her home in Nyeri town, which is also her bakery.
I'm doing a demonstration for a vanilla cinnamon cake, and you start with 1 cup of flour.
Shay, whose full names are Prishe Markita Knight, has been in Nyeri town for the past 1 year. Shay is an American citizen born to an African-American mother and Kenyan father who hails from Nyeri. She has, however, lived in the United States of America her entire life and only relocated to Kenya recently to start a new life in a country she had never been to. She says the intense rat race that characterizes life in America wore her out, and that was her main motivation to seek an alternative life in Kenya.
My mother is Black American, and my dad is a Kikuyu from Tumu Tumu. And, they got to know each other, and here I am. I'm kind of like an Obama. And I'm left-handed as well, like your president.
Well, basically, I saw that story. At this point, they're talking about Nyeri. How did you move from Kikuyu to Nyeri?
Well, once everything went bad with the landlord, and it was so weird because when we first moved in, he was so nice. He invited us to his home. It was like as if we were gaining a new family member. But once he started, I think there was a time where he asked my mom to borrow money, and my mom had already paid him rent, just suspicious things. And my mom was a really nice person. So she's like, okay, I'll help you out, things. So we thought he was a real cool person, but he did some inappropriate things. He was disrespectful at times. So my mom was like, we got to get out of here before something bad happens. And we managed to decide to go to Nyeri because, we wanted something a little more countryside, quiet. Nairobi was a, bit overwhelming, I think, for my mom. So she wanted something more low key. And plus it's not far from, Tuma Tuma as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And so how was it in Nyeri, keeping in mind that now you're moving to a smaller city?
Mm-hmm.
How was the transition? I mean, Nairobi is much of a hustle and bustle and all that. How was it in Nyeri?
Nyeri was actually like a breath of fresh air, literally. Because, in Nairobi, you got all the, traffic and smoke and busyness, and it's moving crazy. But when I got to Nyeri, it was just like, okay, everything was just chill, very laid back for the most part. And I did the same thing that I did in Kikuyu town. I went to, some of the bigger businesses and the newspaper, and the radio stations, and they all took to me the same way. They're like, you're the cupcake girl. Who are those cakes? You don't come here without the cakes. What do you? So that's how, my adventure started. And I just walked. I walked on foot, everywhere I went, all over, from Huduma office to the police stations. And nobody was really, they weren't mean to me or anything. They're just like, don't come back without the cakes. And I used to serve, the cupcakes at Huduma Center in Nyeri town. And if I didn't show up one day, I mean, I would get it big time when I came back, because they depend on their tea time and their snack time, and they wanted those fresh cakes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's quite impressive. I mean, hawking is I don't know how many people would take that job, like hawking. I mean,
They were asking me, how do you do it with so much pride and hold your head up? Because they say it's something that people usually see as a low end type thing to do. But it was the easiest way for me to get my product out there, was to do it on foot.
how, like, did you just decide that I'm going to be making these cakes and hawking them? Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I did. I observed what other people were doing around me, and I saw all the other hawkers. They were selling certain things, or people who are, roasting maize, people who sell eggs. They're hustlers, they're workers, they have families to feed, and I just kind of was like, if they can do it, I can do it, right? Even though I'm an American, why can't I get out here and, give good customer service and do it with a smile? And I think people appreciated that. And they said, well, why are you giving us free stuff? I said,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to know if the product is good before you buy it. And they're like, oh, that's so nice of you, So people I think they responded to the energy that I brought, and it was something different, and they took notice to it.
So, how did the business grow in Nyeri? Did it grow beyond just selling that? Like, tell us more about your life and experience
No,
in.
it didn't grow past Nyeri. I ended up actually going back to Nairobi. And when I went back to Nairobi, I stopped selling the cupcakes that way. I went to work with a friend at her business in Lovington, in Nairobi. And she really just took me under her wing. She took me into her home. She gave me a chance to do very big events and concerts, food catering. She let me come into her business and give her fresh ideas on how to start delivering lunches to offices and, things like that. And so I just worked for her for a while and just did creative things with her and built a good friendship with her. And then
Mm-hmm.
from that point, I had went down to Diani Beach. Um, I went for a little weekend and fell in love with Diani. And within a month, I was in Diani Beach working at a beach resort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
so that's when I
this
started.
was after how many months? Having been in the country, this was after being in the country for how many months?
Like within less than a year or two, I managed to do all this and go to all these places and just experience and get it, really indulged into the culture.
Mm-hmm. I think at some point I did see that you are also involved in some activities with the Maasai women.
Yes. I have a good friend. Her name is Upatet, and she has an organization because it's a lot of. She said the rate is at 40% in Norak. I'm sorry, I probably pronounced it wrong. Norak. I always pronounce it wrong. Can you help me say it correctly? Norak.
How? Narok.
Norak.
Narok.
Yes. Yes, she's out there, and she has an organization where she's trying to protect the young girls because they're being raped at a rate of 40%, and there's still, female genital mutilation going on in their community. So this was a women empowerment event that I was invited to
Mm-hmm.
by an MP. And so I basically went out there to help raise money so the women can get their own goats and get some things, their own cash flow, figure out a way for them to try to, they don't just have to sit at home. They have children and they have to go to school. So why can't the woman, get her own goat to sell milk? Why can't she do little things to try to help herself get into a better situation? Of course, you have to respect their culture and the way that they live life, And my goal wasn't to go out there and just tell them, oh, it's time to be Miss Independent. No, it was just to come to them on their level, give encouragement, and also help raise money so that they can get some more livestock specifically for the women.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Okay.
treated me so well. It was the best experience I've ever had. It was amazing because they slaughtered a whole cow, and I've never seen anything like that before. And when the way they cooked it and how they ate, and they just welcomed me into their community. It was amazing.
So how long did you stay in Kenya? No,
It's
sorry, in Narok. Narok, sorry, Narok, Narok.
is my mom on here? I see my mom. I'm sorry.
Your mom is there.
Yeah, I see Jonna King. Hi, mom. Okay, so
So how long did you stay in
uh,
Narok?
we I stayed in Nord. It was just that was a day trip. I didn't stay there long. Yeah, it was just a
Mm-hmm.
day trip.
Okay, that's awesome. So you moved from Nairobi, Nairobi to Nyeri, back to Nairobi, then to the coast, Diani to be specific, right? Or was it Mombasa?
Yes, it was Diani Beach. Yeah.
How did you move? Did you just go on vacation, or how did you move? Because Diani is one of the best beaches in Africa.
It's rated what, number one the last 2 or 3 years, number
Yeah,
one beach in Africa. It is
yeah.
stunning. It's beautiful. But unfortunately, when I was leaving, there was a lot of sand mining going on from the Chinese or something along those lines where the beach started to erode because they're harvesting the sand and destroying the coastline. That's another story for another day.
Uh-huh.
But yes, Diani Beach is fascinating. It's amazing. And I wish I could afford a property there. And when I can, I will buy there one day.
Okay, so how did you move, and what were you doing in Diani?
Well, I had got an invitation to come down and help manage. Um,
Go ahead,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
No, just go ahead.
And help manage a beach resort.
Uh-huh.
So I figured that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's something that doesn't necessarily like what happened in the US, where I can go to Miami and just be like, I want to manage this without years and years of experience. So for me, not to necessarily have full on experience, but they let me come in there and I just, tried to make it work for myself managing. And then that's when I got into the holiday booking and vacation rental side of, the business as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started meeting a lot of people, a lot of people.
So you transitioned, you started your life in Diani, you got into a job. How was it? Like your experience in Diani generally?
For as beautiful as Diani was, I faced a lot of challenges because I guess I just didn't have that aggressiveness in so many ways of how to deal with staff members and how things operate, and not being able to speak the local languages just made things very difficult sometimes. But it was fun, for the most part, to always wake up every day in such a paradise. But when it came to the operations of the daily operations, it was a lot more challenging from the US because HR, there basically is not, there is no HR. Everything is just run how it's run, and how things are done is how it's done. So I tried to come in, do training. I tried to come in and get some things, properly organized so that there's a proper human resources system and how the staff are paid. And it just didn't work out for me well because my system was from what I know in the US, and the way they do their system is how it works best for them. So I had to change and
Mm-hmm.
figure out the best way to make sure everything stretched and could get done. And in some ways I still failed because I just didn't, I couldn't treat my staff like animals. I respected them, and I was a little too nice sometimes maybe, and that's my downfall, I think.
What do you mean by too nice?
Too nice. Like if the staff, if I ask you to do something, I mean for you to do it this way and get it done, but then sometimes somebody will do it their way, or do things not, in a timely manner. You're like, what's taking you so long? Or, maybe this is something they should be fired over, but it's not a big deal. It was just a small mistake, maybe. I would be like, okay, well, you're getting a warning. We're going to write you up. I understand you need this job. You have a wife and kids. Let me try to train you the right way to do this so that you can keep your job.
So
That
how are
wasn't
you?
the way it
How
works.
are you?
Usually, if they're going to fire somebody, they just fire them. There is no discussion.
So how are you dealing with it? You do it. If they don't do the work, you do it on their behalf.
I mean, I would have to, consult with the owner, the person above me. I would have to get on top of them. Sometimes I would have to get a little more aggressive, but I always still tried to talk to people with respect. And I think that because I wasn't speaking in the local language for them to understand me sometimes, they kind of just, it was kind of like a joke. It was just like a joke. They just like to hear me talk, but they're like, yeah, she's a nice lady. She's really not gonna fire me if I show up 20 minutes late. Stuff like
Ah.
that. She's like, and then they kind of like knew that, I just didn't, there was a certain lack of aggression, I would say. And I say aggression when I mean like being cutthroat and being more direct on certain things with the staff. And that's how they needed to be handled. They needed to be handled with that aggression to get things done properly. And I think that's not a good thing, because a boss in the US is not always going to talk downgrading to you. They'll be like, okay, this is what I need done, and I expect you to do it. And if you can't do it, then, you're going to get rid of consequences. So I was trying to bring that same approach, and it just didn't work. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, while at that, kindly let's get the likes up. We have over 150 people watching. Hit that like button. Our likes are pretty much low. We've had about 500 people so far watching, so hit that like button. I can see I spent many years. Unfortunately, folks don't like order in the US either. I spent many years in the HR discipline. If you have questions as we're carrying on, as she's telling us about her experience, you can just keep sharing your questions and anything that you'd love to hear from Shay. So you said that being too nice was one of your downfalls or something. What do you mean
It's
by
seen
that?
as a weakness. It's a weakness in some cases, because the stronger you come off and the more presence you carry, it's like that saying, you either, how do they say it? You either eat or get eaten.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like that sense. You really have to come with a certain strength, not disrespect to anybody, but you do have to carry yourself with a certain strength and let people know that I'm not playing games and I'm very aggressive about my business. And that's the attitude you have to maintain at all times. A straight
Mhm.
face. I'm not here to be your friend sometimes. It's more of, I have to keep this professional and you need to do your job.
Okay.
And so my niceness sometimes got me taken advantage of. You try to trust some people, and sometimes, they go overboard with some things like that, But in
Mhm.
general, I mean, I was just, trying to get along and, you know, blend in and live peacefully. But there was always some drama or something happening or some madness going on. I think it's just because it's just how things operate when there's, not the proper management from the beginning.
Mhm. So,
So,
tell us, Diani, how long did you work in Diani, and what's next?
Diani was about maybe a year. I was there about a year and a half. I would say, yeah, about a year to a year and a half. I left Diani actually in August of 2018. What had happened, which was my downfall, in Diani is once I stopped working at the resort, I went into doing my own bookings and vacation rentals, things like that. So it was just like a commission-based type hustle. And so even though I was making enough money to pay my bills and survive, I wasn't making enough to make thousands of dollars to get back to the US or do things that I needed to do, like that. So it kind of came to a point where when my apartment got robbed. My apartment got robbed, and my good friend, her apartment got robbed as well, and she was downstairs. So once our apartments got robbed and I lost like a lot of weight, like with my laptop to be able to work and do certain things, it just kind of lost my zeal for Kenya. And it was time for me to go home. I had got sick in at the beginning of January 2018. I actually had malaria, and I was sick for about a month. And I didn't leave my apartment. I didn't really do any hotel bookings, anything like that. So with all those things happening, getting sick, not having enough to do all the things I needed to do, getting robbed, it just kind of was like, it's time to go back home to sort out some things so I can come back to Kenya and regroup.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how I ended up leaving in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So
it was just things got hard.
Your friend was also Kenyan, the one who got robbed?
Yes, she also Kenyan, and she is now here in the US. She got married.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that experience. And this time round, you had moved to Kenya with your mom. So this time round, where was your mom?
She actually was in Nyeri, and then there were sometimes she may have been back in, home, but most of the time she was in Nyeri.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
it's like we basically went on to live our separate lives. I went off to find my way, and she went to, live her best life too.
Mm-hmm. And well, you got to that point, you are like, I'm done now, I have to go back.
Yeah, I needed to build capital. I needed to regroup. I needed to re-strategize because I was basically spinning my wheels. At some point, when I went to Kenya, I didn't go with money. So I was just surviving. I would not recommend that to any person considering moving to Africa. Don't do a lot of the things that I did. That's why my mom and I are working on this book. My mom is the author and I'm the co-author. And we're basically going to be telling about our experience in integrating into the society, from love to transportation to laws to buying property to the whole list of what happened to us on this journey. And so I really want to give people a different perspective on what it's really like when you get there and how hard it can be sometimes to navigate when you don't know which way to go or who to turn to all the time.
Don't you think like maybe moving to Nyeri at that time would have been an easier option, like just trying to go back with mom and
And I could have did that. I could have just stayed in Nyeri. I could have went back to Nairobi. I could have stayed, but something inside of me, was like, if you really want to get everything on track, go home, work, save, and then come back, because I knew that I wasn't going to make enough hustling in the streets to really do a lot of the things I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, kindly let's get the likes up. If you have questions for our guest, go ahead and ask our guest. We have 179 people watching, but our likes are pretty low. You might have forgotten to hit the like button. Just hit the like button again. Just hit the like button again. Hit the like button in case you didn't do. Support the stream. Hit that super chat. So before I even ask, do you have plans of coming back?
Yes, I do. With my mother being in Kenya, I'm always gonna come home, I would say. You know, I just think that it might be difficult for me to commit to it, like say, okay, I'm just gonna go for these, 3, 4, 5 years, because for me, because of my circumstances, some African Americans, they went with more money and they could just stay and all that. But because I'm not someone who had that much when I went, I knew I had to work and earn money here first and have my obligations here first, get my degrees. So when I come to Kenya, I could set up streams of income so I'm not stressing of how I'm going to make money while I'm there.
Mhm.
And
Someone
that
is
needed to be done from the US.
someone is asking why is it that mom and dad could not help protect her?
Because they weren't there. They were in Nyeri and I was in a different part of the country.
Mhm. What are the major differences between USA and Kenya she noticed?
The cost of living, and how easy it is to basically just live a easier, laid back lifestyle. Rent in Kenya, let's say if you want a basic apartment, even in Nairobi, I would say what, 20,000 to 30,000 shillings for a small, cute apartment, $200 to $300. In the
Mhm.
US right now, if I wanted a one bedroom apartment, I'm gonna at least pay about $7, $8, $900, which would be what, 70K in Kenya? That's a luxury an apartment in Nairobi. You're living large if you're paying 70K a
Mhm.
month in Nairobi. That's pretty good. So the cost of living is, the food is cheap. I mean, and you can eat healthy. That was my biggest thing, was the fact that, I mean, it's like you're close to your food source. You know where this food is coming from and how it's, grown. So I think that was some of the biggest differences, was dealing with housing and how much you get for your money, the cost of food, how cheap the electricity is and the water, and then the safety. I don't consider the transportation in Kenya to be very safe. So even though I took it, and I went everywhere I needed to, I was always worried about, am I going to reach my destination safely? Because I knew that they just did not practice safe road, driving.
Oh, the
So they just
driving.
kind of fly like bats out of hell.
I know it's how we drive is, I know it's like crazy how people drive, it's crazy, like it's like
I got clever at some point on the drivers. I started telling them stories. I said, look, I'm, a consultant for the NTSA. I said, I'm here from the United States doing some research observations. I said, I'm going to be traveling with you today. Do you know those drivers would drive safer just because they thought that I was a spy?
oh really?
Yeah. So I got clever on them. I'm like, you're not about to kill me. I want to make it to the countryside safe. And there's no reason why for you to be driving like this and killing people.
How much did she have when she got there? When you came,
$1,500.
that's all you had when you came to Kenya?
That's all I had.
Mm-hmm. Another question, I just noted another question. Related to that, someone asked, how much does one need to comfortably to make per month in order to comfortably live in Kenya?
If you're good with money management and you're not overspending and just shopping for random shoes, clothes, beads, which we all do because we love to wear nice, kitenge and things like that. I could survive, I would say, with less than $400 would be okay for me, because I'm single, I don't have children, I can live modestly, and I know how to budget. So for me, I would say $300 to $400 you can survive. If you want to be comfortable, you could maybe say $700 to $800, depending on where you want to live in Nairobi and things like that.
All right. Someone is asking, someone is saying, oh, I jumped into the video late, but does she have an undergraduate degree? Lots of times you can find your way around an African country with a degree until you set up business. On that one, I think that's just an assumption. I see a lot of people with degrees and no jobs, no jobs, or maybe you're getting a job that is not even related to what you're doing, and you're getting paid. Can't if your salary can't even pay for many things. Do you regret? Like, okay, what was your best before then? What was your best experience in Kenya?
I think the best experiences was when I was working for an event, my friend's event company, and we did some big concert events. You know, we did Capleton when he came from Jamaica. We did Damon Marley's concert at the carnival, and being able to serve them and take care of them during the event, and it just kind of made me feel like I was really doing something like amazing for the first time, to be able to meet such, you know, famous people. Also, I did some events at the Elephant with Eric Wanaina. You know, she's very good friends with him, and so sometimes they would do like rehearsals. So Soul to Soul would be there. Actually, before I left Kenya, he sung for me for my birthday.
Ah,
Um,
wow.
yeah, remember from Soul to Soul, he sung for Happy Birthday. So meeting these people, that was just the bomb for me. I just love like being out there and doing those events because, you know, and then also traveling to Naivasha, seeing the Great Rift Valley. I don't know, that was kind of spiritual for me. Also, my event that I did for the women's empowerment, these were all very spiritual moments for me that I would say were the best moments. And then
Mm-hmm.
my top number one moment would be when I lived in Diani Beach. And where I lived by Neptune Beach Resort. So there's a sandbar that, you know, the ocean, when it goes low tide, it goes out like so far, so you can walk in that beautiful crystal clear water. And I would go out there and literally lay out in the ocean and just lay there and stare up at the sun and the sky. I would go walking on the beach at night, and that gave me a sense of freedom that I cannot tell you how it connected me to the soul of Africa.
Mm-hmm. And
Just something so simple. I know it's simple, but for me it works.
okay, I don't know if Benjamin is asking about the healthcare and insurance costs. Did you have to, because you mentioned about the budget, have you included insurance and healthcare costs in it?
No, because I was very fortunate to not really have to go to the hospital. I would just go to the pharmacies. They do have a foreigner's health insurance that you can pay. I believe it might be like $200 a month. I heard about it, but I never purchased insurance. So I was taking a risk. Don't do what I did, you know. So I would just go to the pharmacy. Now, with the pharmacy, they have antibiotics that here in the U.S. It's very hard to get. You have to go to a doctor to get that. I
Yep.
was able to walk into a pharmacy, and for $5, I'm cured or whatever it was that I thought could have been, you know, wrong. Um, and that was pretty much. I didn't have really medical because I took care of myself. I had got healed, even though when I arrived to Kenya, I was sick. I got healthy so quick because I had stopped eating the American food. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any health issues after that. You're talking to someone who, in the US, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical expenses over the last couple of years before I came to Africa. So I
Mm-hmm.
went from hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical expenses to zero when I arrived in Kenya because I was better.
Okay, okay. Kindly hit the like button. Let's get the likes up. Support the stream. Hit that super chat. That's the dollar sign. Just as you are commenting, Miss T. Thank you so much for the super chat. Felicia, I really appreciate your love and support. Did you experience reverse culture shock when you arrived back in the USA?
I did. I went into a small depression when I got back to the US. because I felt like I did not identify with who I used to be as an American almost. It was like it wasn't comfortable for me. I went into Walmart and I got overwhelmed. I was like, I don't want to be in this store. I just it's like it's too much. I don't want to spend this money. I was very because when you get to Africa, you learn the value of your money so much more and like how to make it work for you. So I did not want to spend money. I didn't want to be bothered with just a lot of the now I have to be kept a certain way. Now I felt pressure that I used to feel before I left. It came all back and it was a bit too much anxiety for me. And then I started looking at my own people, right? I started looking at how we Black people here in the US treat each other. And then how much I was wishing that, Africans and African Americans, we had that strong bond that we need to make this diaspora thing work. I just started looking at my people and I became depressed because I see the dire strait that we're living in. So it was a culture shock. I had to check my emotions. I had to learn to just get my tough skin back and get back on the grind and back to work and just focus on hustle, hustle, hustle like we always do in the US. Work, 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 or day to day, boom, boom, boom.
Mhm. And do you plan to visit other African countries?
Absolutely. Ghana would be the next stop. I also would love to go to Ethiopia, Egypt, places like that, Morocco. But I have a friend who lives in Namibia, and she's also a writer who did a story on me as well. Her name is Kayla. You might know who she is. I think you might have spoke with her a time or two before, maybe, I thought, in the past. But she is definitely an inspiration, for me to go to South Africa because she's, an African American as well who also made the transition and is permanently, living there. She married, a Namibian man. So I, I just think it's just very, fascinating for any of us to make the big journey, and we should stay connected so that we can go visit each other in Tanzania and other places,
Mm-hmm. What
because
do you
you got
miss?
to know somebody. You got to know somebody. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yep, 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 yep. Sometimes it's very important to know some people. What do you miss most about Kenya?
Hmm. What do I? And I know I probably shouldn't say it, but I kind of miss being able to maneuver my way into situations or being able to never, it's like you can negotiate everything. Everything is negotiable. It doesn't matter what it is. You can negotiate and figure out a way out of it. Sometimes in the US, it's not that straightforward. It's usually like, this is it. That's it. There's no price adjustment. Sometimes there's no nothing. You pay what you pay, and that's it. So I think I miss that part of Kenya. It's just a certain freedom that I feel as a person of color. I love blending in every day, walking around people who look like me, who can't tell that I'm different from them. I love that a lot. But I think I miss most is just that being able to I feel like I have a power to do what I really want to do. If I really want to open up a real estate company, I feel like you can do that in Kenya. If I really want to start doing these tours of bringing African Americans and, taking them on tours and showing them property and real estate, I can do that in Kenya. The US doesn't always let you just be so free and open with your entrepreneurship without money, experience, and other things like that.
Mm-hmm. Did you
So
buy
it's a freedom.
did you buy land in Kenya?
Yes, we did near Nyeri.
Oh, okay. And do you plan to at some point maybe get Kenyan citizenship?
If there's a possibility of dual citizenship, possibly. But for now, I really have to. figure my situation here in the US,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't see right now how it can be possible for me to come back comfortably.
Mm-hmm. So how much would you advise someone to come back with?
Like an overall total amount, if I can't speak for everybody, I can only speak for myself. So if right now, if I was to come back to Kenya, to at least try to not only start business, but maybe find a good, housing situation, build a house or buy an apartment. If someone could come up with between $50,000, I would say, and $100,000, they could do a whole lot. And that's still not a lot of money from a dollar standpoint, but you could get yourself a permanent housing situation. You could invest in that, and you could get all the proper permits you need, residencies, business. You will have enough to get yourself going some kind of way. And as long as you have some type of small income hustle in Kenya, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of business would you love to engage in? Are you still going to do the same business that you're doing, or what kind of business?
Well, if I come back to Kenya, it's going to be on the terms that I'm coming to help my other, brothers and sisters in the diaspora get home. So that would be from encouraging them to come do tours first, and then, somehow show them, around the country, show them what their options are, and kind of give them all the information that I'm telling you, give them that one-on-one experience so that they can open up their mind to the possibility if they want to consider coming home.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be along those lines of trying to get them in real estate. Excuse me. There's already a lot of African American brothers and sisters in Nairobi that I know, that they have real estate businesses, they're lawyers, or they have things going on for themselves. They have businesses. So it is possible for it to happen. I just think that there needs to be more leadway with the government in welcoming us back, making a way for us, instead of making it so much about, okay, you got to come with this $100,000 or you just ain't getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. We all should be able to come home. I don't care if I'm a poor American. I should be able to go home if I want to. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I can afford a small apartment, let me live there. But there's so many laws and regulations. If you can't afford to go back and forth to the US for visa, you have to travel out of East Africa. There's so many challenges that can eat up your pocket real quick.
Mm-hmm. How would you compare the quality of life in Kenya and the US?
Well, the US of life, just on a normal basis, is better because we do have consistent electricity. We do have consistent running water. We do have decent hospitals, even if they charge you an arm, a leg, and a kidney to go there. Um, excuse me. We do have a better quality of job opportunities. When it comes to just a certain freedom,
Your audio?
I'm sorry, did I lose you?
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Kindly hit the like
Um,
button as you are coming in. If you have questions for Shay, you can go ahead and ask in the comments.
I'm sorry, the audio, I lost you. What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
It's still a little low.
You'll need to sign out and come back in because I think somebody called you. It interfered with your audio. So you'll sign out and click on the link to come back in.
Okay.
Okay, do that and then join us. Join us.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the audio.
Sign out and come back in. Sign out and come back in. Okay. Joshua, you're saying, wait, she just accused Kenya of blackout. When was the last time we had a blackout? I guess it's maybe on the other side, they don't experience it at all. Maybe it happens, but it's not as bad. I don't think it's as bad. I don't know. As long as you've paid for your electricity units and all that, from my experience, and the region where you stay will also determine. For instance, I don't get blackouts a lot. Neither do I lack water as much. So it all depends on where you stay. I think basically. Yeah, you are saying
Yeah.
something before. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Go ahead. You are saying something before we lost you.
I was
We're
basically,
talking
yes,
about the
agreeing with you.
and all that.
Yeah, it can be challenging sometimes. I went days sometimes without electricity or had water issues in
Where were you
Kenya. So the
staying
US
at that time?
is consistent. Huh?
Where were you staying at that time?
In Nairobi,
Like
in
when?
Lovington.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there sometimes the lights they just go out or the water. Sometimes you have to buy the water. You pay for the big truck to come and put the water in, in the tanks, things like that. I don't know why they had such issues there in Nairobi sometimes with the water.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes also in Mombasa, in Diani,
Mm-hmm.
also the light issue didn't have much water issue, but definitely the lights would go out often throughout the day.
Okay, okay. So come on, some people are catching. Like I said, of course, that was her experience. I mean, everybody's experience is different. Some people have had an amazing experience, and of course, the issue with water and all that. I don't personally, I don't experience that, but like I said,
I
it's
need
not
to actually plug my charge in. Can you give me 1 second?
okay. Cool.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Okay, Davi's been Davi's been to Kenya. Davi has been to Kenya. Says different, so it's different experience for different people. I didn't know the pretentious. Um, Hit the like button. Hit the like button as you are coming in. We are getting her back in. So if you have questions for her, you can go ahead and someone did she stay in Westlands? No, she said she didn't stay in Westlands. She stays, I think, she stayed in Ruaka, not Westlands, Africa Diaspora News Channel. Uh, my advice: buy land next to the road. Build. I think her phone must have gone off. Uh, I think I was trying to read some comments, but I can't see it. The comments. Um, My understanding is that generator is the best backup to have power during blackout. It should be mandatory, especially for rental properties. A lot of rental properties, like I said, it all depends on where you're staying. I mean, it depends on where you're staying. Lots of rental properties, best depending on where you stay, you will have generators and all that, but and some places rarely experience power outages, so it's different. Some people use solar, so yeah, we don't have a penny. Hit that like button as you're coming in. Hit the like button. She's definitely joining us back. I think her phone went off, so if you have questions, keep asking those questions as you are coming in. All right, she's back. Hello, hello, Shay, we can't hear you. Hello. Her screen froze. Her screen froze. Let's wait. You watch. Hmm. Hit the like button. Mm, why would we need generators? I've never had blackout. You pay what you use in Kenya. Like I said, it depends for some people, their experience. So that was her experience, and maybe where she stayed, that was her issue. It seems like she's having. uh, Stop with Brian Gibson. I had positive and negative balance in her conversation, just real life. That's very true. There's occasional blackouts in the USA, and most people don't have generators. Oh, really? Okay. And water. How was it getting your material items back and forth between countries? When she's joining us, she's going to tell us how she dealt with that. She'll reconnect shortly. All right, all right. I think when you're talking about getting her materials, remember the last time when she had to leave, her items had been stolen, so I don't think she had anything to take back. I'm not so sure. Maybe she can explain to us more about it. I watch all Ghana and Niger movies. They're so long, but they're good. Okay, the Bazungu need to stay away from Africa. Hit the like button. Let's be patient. Let's give her some few minutes. She's going to join us back. She's going. I remember blackouts in the 80s and 90s. These days they are very rare. That's very true, Mjuaji. Yeah, blackouts are pretty much rare, and of course they always give and of course they always give notice most often when there's no power, but at the end of the day, most cases is you pay what you use, because electricity here is prepaid. So like I just bought some electricity tokens before the stream, so that I ensure that the electricity doesn't go off on me while I'm streaming. And of course, a lot of times a lot of times when there's electricity issues, you'll be surprised that it's just maybe your building. That is why I stayed at the Kempinski, never had any of those. Of course, the places like Westlands, the high-end places, the high-end places, you'll never experience any of that at all. Like, of course, Kempinski, you'll never experience electricity shortage or blackout. You'll never experience water problems and all that. 16 people still need to hit the like button. Yes, yes, yes. Hit that like button as you are coming in. Let's wait for Shay. She's joining us back in a few. And if you have questions for her, you can go ahead and ask. If you have questions for Shay, you can go and ask. She's back. Hey.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry. I couldn't get my charger in time. I'm sorry.
Oh, so your phone went off.
Yeah.
Oh, so sorry about that. Yeah, I think you're talking. Were you talking about the quality of life before you disappeared?
I'm sorry. I was talking about the what?
Quality of life, I think.
Yes. Okay. When I think of quality of life, I look at people who live in Kibera, for example.
Mm-hmm.
In Kenya, for me, it's heartbreaking to see so many more people who live in poverty. Because even from, like, say, if you're living in the ghetto in the US, that's still pretty decent quality of life compared to people who live in Kibera. Because,
What
that's the
about
slum.
what
So
about the skid rows that we see, the skid row and stuff like that?
Well, that's around. There are homeless people, in the US who live on the streets, but that's a very small percentage of the whole population who typically live in some form of housing. Like, we don't live in necessarily shacks. Even if you're the poorest, you live in some form of decent housing. some form. You know, the people, the way they live in some of the slums all over Africa, you know, there is no running water at all. There is no, you know, proper sewage or no, a lot of times the electricity, I don't know how they get it sometimes, because I think it's like connected some other kind of way. I'm not 100% sure, but it doesn't seem like, to me, the quality of life in the US, even if you're the poorest, you still live a better quality than someone in a third world country. You're very blessed to be able to have certain things a certain way and how things function here in the US.
So what about the people who are homeless? How is it that they cannot have those like better house or something like that?
There are government programs that we have for some people, but a lot of those people have mental health issues. A lot of them are on drugs. A lot of them have been through things where they have no one and they can't function on their own. They don't have the mental capacity to be able to maintain housing properly. They can't even work. So it's other issues as to why they're homeless. A lot of times people here have to live, you know, 5 to 10 people in one household just so that you have everyone can have a roof over their head. You know, it's very difficult to, if you don't have a high paying job, you struggle just to live in an average place. You know, if you just have a regular job, you struggle to maintain all your bills and all those things on your own. So for a homeless person in the US, they've just been through a lot in their lives, or they have mental issues or something going on with them, or sometimes they want to be on the streets. You have people who that's how they live because it's possible to still survive on the streets. So a lot of people choose that life, but for those who don't choose that life and you end up homeless, I've almost ended up homeless before in the US. I've had to sleep in my car before.
Okay. I live 20 minutes from Skid Row. On Skid, people live in tents, no running water, nothing. Worked there 2 years. Well, Brandon says that he lives in Skid Row, and that's the experience. Do you think? Hello. I guess her phone must have gone off again. They are again trying to find their food to eat. It's very easy to be homeless in the US. Pan-Africanism strikes back in New York City, in the subways, under the highways, in the alleys, and on and on. I don't know about that. Some people live in their cars, some on the street, but it's easier to access water because the stores, because of stores, if you look good enough, you get harassed if you look homeless. LA has about 2 million homeless people alone. There are 10 cities in the USA. We'll be waiting for her to join us back. Okay, she's back.
I had to
Hello.
switch to my laptop because the phone just had it with me. I talk too much.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, that's okay. If I could, do you think for someone, let me say, and as someone who's making decent money, for instance, maybe your job or the job or wherever job that you are doing, let's say for instance, if you are a nurse or a teacher in the US and Kenya, like, no, let's not look at the people who are homeless, jobless, and all that. Can we say that how can we compare the quality of life? Let's say maybe there's a banker here and there's a banker in the US.
Things run more efficiently here. There's more standards, there's more procedures, there's better customer service. Things run at a higher standard here in general. You go into certain businesses, you're going to get a certain type of service, or you know that your quality is usually going to be pretty decent, or if it's not, you can get your money back. It doesn't work like that in Kenya. Usually when you buy something, the sale is final. You got to fight the person like, hey, you sold me something, you know. In those standpoints, the quality of life in the US can be better because things run efficiently. Kenya, things don't always happen the way they should happen, or sometimes you have to wait a little longer for things. Things move a little slower. You need to have more patience because things are not going to always flow like they do here in the US or and happen as quickly.
Okay, if you made $2,000 in the US and Kenya and $2,000 in Kenya, where would you choose to live?
Well, because $2,000 a month in Kenya is for the rich, I would say that's borderline rich. So I would definitely live in Runda, near the big mall, near the two rivers, near the UN.
Okay. If you made $500 in Kenya and $2,000 in the US, where would you choose?
If I made $500 a month in Kenya,
Yeah, and $2,000 in the US. What's the average salary in the salary in the US?
it varies. But like, let's say, even if the person, the lowest is minimum wage, and I believe that may be like $10 an hour. So that's $1,000 an hour in Kenya. You're still doing pretty well in Kenya if you're making that
No,
much
no,
money per
I'm
day.
saying like in the US, what is the average salary?
For
Like,
an average person, let's say
how much does an average
a
person make?
$20 an hour, I would say. And
$20.
most people don't make that, but for an average job, you might get $20 an hour.
Okay, majority of the people in the US, how much do they make like at the end of the month, totally after the taxes and everything?
If they're lucky, they're bringing home $2,000 to $3,000. If they're lucky.
Okay, so if someone is making $2,000, if you are making $2,000 in the US, if you got a job and you're making 2,000 or $3,000 in the US, and you came, uh, and in Kenya you made like $600 per month, where would you choose to live?
um, I would choose to go, if it was down to $600 a month in Kenya, I would choose to go back to Diani Beach
Mm-hmm.
because I feel for me it's a better quality of life being close to the ocean, and it's more peaceful, it's more beautiful, the lifestyle's more laid back, and you can get yourself an apartment near the beach, you know, 300-400 a month
Three, 400 a month.
for a nice apartment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I only paid 200 a month,
Mm-hmm.
$200 a month for my beachfront apartment, and that is beachfront in Diani.
Mm-hmm.
But that was because I did business there. I brought the owners, clients. I, did things like that. So they gave me a discount on my rent.
Do you feel I'm just picking from the questions. I see someone says 2,000 a month in the US is nothing paycheck to paycheck. Do
It
you believe
is.
do you believe that with someone who's making 2,000 or 3,000 per month in the US and someone who's making $600 or $500 in Kenya, do you believe that whom among the two do you feel would make more progress?
You can do you could do more in Kenya, I think, with that $600 a month, because you could live in an apartment that you only pay $100 a month or $200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still have, let's say, $400 a month to save, to do business, to, those things. You still be living
Mm-hmm.
paycheck to paycheck. Both are equivalent to paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Both. Yeah. Both are still paycheck to paychecks in Kenya. Even $600. I mean, if an average Kenyan, if they're lucky, can make what, $300 a month? If for an average job, a good one,
No, 300 you wouldn't call it a good one.
you wouldn't get one.
No, I'm saying 300 you wouldn't call it a good one.
It's not a good job, $300 a month.
Yeah, it's not.
Because in Diani, a lot of the salaries are they only making 15K a month. A lot of the staff members that I worked with at some of these other places, they only made 15K a month. That's
Uh-huh.
so that's $150. For some housekeepers, for some basic jobs, they're paying less than $100 a month. How are these people surviving off $100?
I think because maybe Diani is cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you are staying at the beachfront, so your apartment was high. Probably, I think the people who are staying there were locals, so maybe they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have rent and they were just coming from their villages and all that. All right. I'm just catching with the comments. And how's your mom? Okay, I see your mom is in the comments. And but does your mom tell you? Has she ever gone back?
Yeah, she's gone. She's come back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Her experience so far, or
Her
does she
ex-
plan to leave?
no, she never wants to leave. She
So for
doesn't.
her, she's comfortable living in Kenya.
Yeah, and she doesn't want to have to come back unless it's for a reason that I need her to come back, or she comes back to work or do something along those lines. But her
Mhm.
permanent home is Kenya.
All right, all right. I don't know if there's any more questions for our guest. Go ahead and ask as we are wrapping up the stream. You don't pay rent in if you don't pay rent in Africa, $100 is enough. From people who make, let's say, for people who make like $2,000 or $3,000 in the US after they pay their bills and all that, how much are they able to save at the end of the month?
Probably nothing. I wouldn't. It's paycheck to paycheck. So if you're making that per month, you'll be. If you're smart, you could maybe save maybe a couple of $100 a month. But our bills are so high and expensive. It really, you're not left after food and all the other expenses. You don't have much left.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just trying to get questions. I see some questions.
Yeah, sure, it's okay.
um okay, hit that like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, because America went through two recessions before hurting the job market. Nothing. Okay, hit the like button if you have questions for Shay. We are about to end the stream, so if you have questions for Shay, this is your time to ask your questions. I think people moved back to country with really. Someone says, really. You moved. Someone says, I think people move back to country with white supremacy because they don't want to die of starvation. I don't think food. How's the cost of food? How did you find cost of food in Kenya?
Oh, it's perfect. It's I just I mean, I could survive off of $5 to $10 a week on food, which comes out to be what, 40 to $50 a month, just feeding myself. I'm sure someone who has a family might spend $100 a month. Compared to a family in the US, they might spend close to $400 a month on food, if not more, depending on their eating habits.
Mm-hmm. There are many people in the US living hand to mouth. It's a myth. Most people struggle month to month and juggle which bills to pay because of high costs and the cost of living.
And that was
Um,
my out. That's why I chose to, like, I didn't want that pressure anymore. Like, for some reason, I had enough. I just was like, I had enough. What is my mom talking about? She
your
said,
mom is saying she's living my best ever with no regrets. I have more than I have ever accomplished and had no thoughts for haters. Haters. I would love to host your mom someday. So I would love to host her experience. She's been in Kenya for this is 5 years now.
yes, it would be 5 years. I can't believe it because I've been back in the US too.
Uh-huh. So I would love to host your mom so you can also get to hear. So you talk you the middle person here. So I would love to host your mom.
She
And
has her own story to tell as well and her own experiences, and so that's why we chose to kind of go joint on the book experience because we wanted to give everybody the perspective of the mother and daughter, tag team.
all right, all right. So lastly, what advice would you have to any African American or Africa diaspora, British, African British, are they called Black British, or Caribbean, or just anybody who would want to relocate, and if you are coming back, what would you do differently?
Oh, yeah. Well, for the first part of the question, the advice that I would give, well, like I said before, is don't do what I did when I went. I didn't have enough means. I was just going out on a whim and taking a chance that I would survive fine, and I did. But you want to be comfortable. You want to make sure that you have enough to, no matter what situation you get yourself into, you can comfortably get out or go home if you have to. So that would be the first thing. And then also get connected with groups such as Still We Rise, which is a very popular WhatsApp group of other diaspora um, Africans and African Americans. They really can help you find your way, whether you need legal services, whether you need real estate, travel, anything you need, you can go to that group and ask, and they will direct you or give you referrals to people that are trustworthy that can help you. So definitely connect with others while you're there. Do plenty of research, as I did, and I looked up and down for places, what areas looked good to live, what sides of town, how to get there, what's the transportation like, so many different variables on your research that you need to do. Also, read the Constitution, know, the laws. Sometimes that stuff doesn't really matter, but at least if you know it, it can save you a lot of grief when you're trying to get stuff done. Because people are going to tell you a lot of wrong information, or they might tell you, no, 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 just do it this way, and then you end up losing $1,000. It happens.
Mhm. There's a question for you on the screen.
Oh, do you want me to answer the second part to the other question, or you
Yeah,
answer
yeah, you
this one
can answer
first?
and then you just answer that one, the one on the screen, and then you'll be done.
And what I would do different when I come back is, of course, I would try to apply for, if they accept me, because like I said, there's a lot of red tape about trying to get your residency permits. You have to have a certain amount of income coming from wherever you're from. There's some things. So I would hope that I could do everything through the right channels, get the proper permits, and establish myself that way so that I don't have to look over my shoulder and wonder, is someone going to, get me because, oh, this American's and, doing something she's not supposed to.
Okay, and are all these challenges that the infrastructure she talks about can be supported by the continent by Afro American instead of Chinese? What's your take on that? All these challenges aren't. Uh, do you think this could actually be opportunities for those who want to start business and all that, build on the infrastructure that you're talking about?
Well, the same way that they have opened up to the Chinese and other nations to come in and rebuild, the part that I don't understand is how come there's not that there's not companies run by Africans in the diaspora. So I don't know why we don't have the investment power, or what is it that we're lacking so that we can't get those contracts instead of them. So that part, I'm still unsure as to why hasn't, certain industries here in the US that are black owned, or like for me, for instance, let's just say, for instance, if I wanted to go to Ghana and grow hemp, Ghana is going to have some provisions or things lined up for me as an African American so that I could possibly make that come true. Kenya doesn't have that type of structure. You kind of still have to play the foreigner structure as if you were a Chinese or anybody else, and you're going to pay and bribe like they did too.
Okay, okay. You said it's easier. Like, do you think it's easier for someone else to establish it in the US? Because I think setting up business in Kenya is not hard as long as you pay the license and all that.
It's very easy to set up business, and as long as you just have the right permits, no one can come for you and accusing you of doing something, because I found that most Kenyans really like the idea of you selling them something that's different from what they typically have on a normal basis. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're offering, if it's of quality or if you're giving good service, or let's say even if I chose to open up a chicken wing spot and just sell chicken wings all day, Kenyans will gravitate towards that, and you could do very well with that because it's something different and it's something new. So it is pretty easily to start a business as long as you have a creative idea. And even if it's not creative, you can open up a juice bar. You still stand a good chance of doing well.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
I know. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties I've had throughout the day, but we got it done. And thank you so much for having me on your page.
I appreciate. Thank you so much. Well, someday connect me. I would love to also hear from your mom's experience and how and what she did and how come her experience is different and well, I can say successful.
Yeah, her story is a little more, I would say successful, just a little bit more than mine because she's able to still be there and be fine. I had to come back and get back to work and put some things on track. So when I come back to Kenya, I can go full force.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Your mom says it will be an honor to come to your show and donate. Thank you so much, Jana. And if you're in Kenya, if you have a Kenyan number, I know she is gonna give me the contact, or she's gonna give you my contact, and then we can connect. All right. Thanks to everybody who's been part of this stream. I really appreciate your time, your contribution, your questions, and all that. We're going to be having another conversation about this later on. Later on, we probably going. The mom, as she's already accepted, I can see in the comments. She's definitely going to be joining us on the stream to share her experience and how experience is different from the daughter. So I appreciate and let's meet tomorrow again. Bye-bye.
Fabulous. Bye.
Bye.